We have my man Vincent Reynaud.
Yeah.
I got that right.
Yeah.
And you are a production designer.
That's correct.
And based off our conversation we've had, not an art director. There's a difference.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for coming in. You were, I talked to you 3 days ago, and I was hoping to get you on today.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, there's no way he's going to make it in this quick. And then you said, no, let's go ahead and jump into this. And we were introduced by our good friend Mick Fenton, whose father was an amazing casting agent. Casting director. And so when he had spoke about you, he said, you have to talk to Vincent. He's got so much knowledge about everything. And so I'm so happy that you're here and that we get to have a discussion about all things art production, all things, everything else. So with all that being said, when did your love for film start? When did your love for even production on the design side start?
Well, number one, growing up in Europe, American culture was very appealing because it was newer, it was much more progressive, it was less traditional, and a lot of that came from the media that at the time we were watching, and obviously from film and TVs and TV series and all of that. And so you grow up idolizing all of this American filmmaking. And because as a younger person, it transports you into a world that doesn't exist. That's, the beautiful part of filmmaking. So you grow up just living in this dreamland of what movies are like, all the Star Wars and all of this here. And you idolize the culture and it becomes potentially a dream. A lot of Europeans, if you ask them, hey, where would you like to be, like your ultimate place to be? Oh, it was America. That's why you have so many immigrants. That's, so that's where film became such a draw. And I was fortunate to come to the U.S. because a friend of mine, parents lived, one in Paris, one in the U.S., landed in the U.S., New York, did a stint in New York, then San Diego, San Francisco, and obviously Los Angeles, and fell in love with blue sky, palm trees, when you're in your 20s, beautiful women.
Say blonde women, yeah. I wish they all could be California.
Look, that California appeal, I mean, to this day, so, the album cover of the Eagles, Hotel California, the name California, the sunset, the culture, all of this is the quintessential imagery of, you look at these CD or album covers back then and you go, oh wow, this is my dream place. Well, guess what? I'm in California, I see the sunsets, I see the blue sky, I see the palm trees, I see the ocean. I work in films. And the same as when you grow up outside of LA, where in LA you drive and you see, the entrance to Paramount and you go, oh, it's there. But in Europe, it's a world that is so distant, so unattainable, right? Only happens in the movies type thing, right? And so suddenly when you're there and you see that there's an opportunity that exists, it's closer. The reach is closer because now you're in California.
Sure.
That's where suddenly you go, oh, wow. It can, in fact, become a reality. There's also when you become, believe it or not, an immigrant, let's talk about immigration.
Yeah, hot topic.
You appreciate things on a different level because you grew up without it and you grew up idolizing it and now it's there. It's a gift, right? As opposed to, again, you drive by something every day and it's like, oh, it's there, So suddenly when I was given the opportunities to work in the movies, it was, a dream coming true.
And so when you came over here, you had no prior film experience? You just
I had zero film experience.
And so did the idea of being, you know, working in the design side of it, was that it? Or how did you come into that?
So I went through interior and exterior design. I was obviously always creative.
And that was
here.
back home?
No, back home, you know, you study, and then back then you had to do the army because it was mandatory. And then after the army, I was like, okay, I'm going to take a trip, and then eventually, potentially, go back and you know, study to find my career. You know, whatever that career was going to be. But again, landed in the U.S., fell in love with the palm trees and the blue sky, and stayed in LA. And after working in nightclubs and doing the 20-year type thing, I started to do designs for some friend of mine on Melrose Avenue. So at the time, Melrose was very progressive. They had all these amazing clothing stores. And I designed the face, you know, of some of them. One of them was some French guys that had this clothing company. And I took a Superman bursting out of the wall, twice in size. So the entire bust of Superman was bursting through the wall, and then I created these fake concrete pieces of concrete. So it looked like he had bursted through this wall. So you had like this superhero. And they actually ended up having to take it down because it was creating accident on Melrose Avenue, because people were driving, looking at this thing, seriously, and rear-ending each other.
Wow.
But I did, so some of this design, we did the interior where instead of doing, because they were doing licensed cartoon characters embroidered, so they had Warner Brothers, Disney, before it became kind of a business for these companies. And so the interior, I made it like Disney World. All of the changing room were like the little 3 piggy houses, right? One made out of straw, made one out of wood. Everything was tilted. It was kind of magical. It's like Alice in Wonderland. And so I created the entire environment for that. Did another store, did some restaurant, did a bunch of things. And then a friend of mine who was working on music videos, he was an artist and creating, welding kind of crazy structure, said, hey, why don't you work in the film industry? I was like, of course. You know,
that's my dream.
Yeah. And he introduced me to a set shop. A set shop is a place where we build the sets. You know, they build the fake walls and they paint them, so they build the set. But I was not great at actually building. I was better at kind of having ideas and also supervising the actual creation, installation
like
of
the
it.
Curating of it, yeah?
Well, but I was not a designer yet. I did not have this credential. I was not given these opportunities purely because nothing had been proven yet. But they kind of gave me some tasks and I made it happen. We did at the time for MTV a bunch of like rock and jock stuff, and worked on some of the music video. We had like Nirvana, you know, with a guy on a cross. Oh yeah,
that's what you? No, I didn't know that.
I was not the designer.
Right,
I worked for the set shop. You know,
designing
but
that stuff.
Yeah, so it was pretty incredible, and it was kind of crazy things. Tom Foden was the production designer, super talented guy. Anyway, so I started like this here, but I'm also a type of person, again, call it the immigrant part, where I was always like, hey, I can do this. Hey, I can do that. Hey, you know, I was always, call it hustling, because you want to grow upward and forward, not in a static way. And I was talking to all the production designers, say, hey, hire me. I can be, you know, your assistant. I can do this. I can do that. And then one day, one of the assistant art directors was given a job as an art director. And so he hired me, and I became his assistant. He gave me a chance, and then I stayed with him, and then eventually I became an art director myself. And every time I would see these production designers and say, hey, hire me, you know. And one of them was Arthur Max. Arthur Max was and still is one of the best production designers out there. He was working on this little film at the time, didn't know what it was. And he hired me to do the reshoots and the inserts on a movie called Seven. That's something that you and I talked about. So they already had shot principal photography, and then they were reshooting all of the title cards, all of the inserts, and then a lot of reshoots. I mean, we reshot for 20 days.
Wow.
My first film as a production designer, we did the entire film in 20 days. Just the reshoots were about 20 days. And Arthur was already working on G.I. Jane at the time and Gladiator.
Wow.
And so it was like, oh, it's only a reshoot here, Vincent. I'm like, this is my first job as an art director for film, and I'm working with guys like, David Fincher, obviously, who is a master at so many little details. And this is why his movies, talking about David Fincher, are so powerful, is he has such an accurate knowledge of what he wants. And to a fault at times, sometimes he's been criticized. Oh, so many takes. Yeah, but he's a perfectionist. And at the end of the day, we don't remember okay movies. We don't remember mediocre movies. We kind of remember good movie. We remember freaking amazing movies. And you don't get that by just being complacent and saying, hey, it's okay.
100%. No. Yeah, I watched behind the scenes for Panic Room. It's on YouTube. And I was watching Fincher go through and looking at the tiniest details that we would never even think about. He was, at one point, when the camera's kind of pushing through the kitchen, it goes underneath, and then they're sitting at the table. Underneath the light, he's like, there's a little seam here. I can't see that seam, even though that camera probably wouldn't have seen that. And then he's over by the elevator, and he's like, this doesn't look worn enough. It needs that level of detail, watching that is like, holy shit, like that is incredible. And so when you were on that set working, did you work with him?
Yeah.
And so how was that energy? Like, how do you, this is your first one,
Yeah. Well, also it was my first bigger movie. Right before that, I'd done something called Lawnmower Man. But there was a sequel. So the first one was great. The second one was unfortunately not as great. But for me, again, I was an art director to Ernie Roth at the time.
Yeah.
So I developed a little understanding how it worked. But when I worked with David, we were shooting, and I remember, so we were literally shooting some of the inserts. So inserts, this one of them, we had a wall shelves and a bunch of jars with all of the things, like the hands and things like that. The
macabre sort.
Yeah, very macabre looking. And then so camera is panning across, and then David, because I love to be on camera, because that's why I came to Hollywood for. It's to see what we create. Right? And it's like, hey, Vincent, turn this here. And so it was a hand that was, when we was placed by the prop guy, they placed it, but the camera angle, sometimes just a few degrees, gives it a different, visual story. Yeah. And so he had me move the thing, and that's when I realized, wow, this guy is really paying attention to every little detail. And funny story, actually, we got a grievance, which is a penalty imposed by the union, because I was near him. We were literally here. The camera was there. The thing was there, because it was not my job. The job description under a union states that as a designer, you design things, or an art director, you execute this. But the touching of the props, you don't do that.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
But anyway, so that's when I realized, wow, this guy is just so meticulous. And you even know that when you look at just even in his framing, when he wants to engage you, you see the frame, and it's all about the eyes that are talking to you. And then when the person stands up, the camera follows, so you don't have a disconnect, right? Yeah. And that's part of visual storytelling. It's engaging your viewer. It's, again, we're storytellers, right? And so, to me, there's so many other little details with the Fincher and the Fincher-like people that are so passionate that you have to commend them because they are such lovers of the craft that they do that their final product or what they create is just a notch above a lot of other things. I mean, look at Frankenstein, the movie that came out.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah. I mean, as a production designer,
crazy.
I mean, bravo, these guys. I mean, just talk about the detail, things that you'll never see until you really pay attention to it, you know.
I think that's why I love the BTS stuff so much. Like, I love watching movies, but I almost like end up watching more of the behind the scenes stuff because I love looking at just the minor details, even just looking on what's on the desk, you know, the notes that he had for Frankenstein, or even just the angles of everything that they're showing. Is just, I think that's one of my favorite things. And I think the production designer and art department has always been probably almost the first love before I started getting into the camera side. You know, I think I actually did kind of your angle as well. I built some in a mall in San Jose at the Valley Fair Mall. They paid me to do like a whole display thing, and as I'm setting up stuff, it was kind of like an Alice in Wonderland thing, and it was with displays. So I created a book that looked like it was open, and I embedded a screen in it, and then I had pages flipping. So when people come and look at the display, it looks like there's this book page flipping, and so growing up, you know, people like Ridley Scott who were like almost art director forward. Designing Blade Runner, Alien, so hands-on that then it was almost, okay, now it's time to hold the camera and create the world. I've just always had a strong affinity for that art direction stuff. So I love hearing this type of stuff. And so when you started getting on these opportunities and you start leveling up, what was the next step in your evolution in your job? You just worked with Fincher. You did Seven. Where do you go from there? I mean, that's a height.
Well, it is, but also life happens. And at the time, I had 2 younger babies. I have 2 boys that are now grown. But the next film with actually Arthur was, okay, he was already working on G.I. Jane when we were doing Seven. And then Gladiator was next, and he was already starting to do some of the visual research. And when he said, okay, we're going to be doing this, I say, I cannot do this. I have 2 young babies. Also, at the time, my ex-wife, had pretty serious health issues. There was no way I was living for the next 6, 9 months, year, and leaving my kids, brand new babies at home. So I had to shift my choices of career path and kind of setting aside filmmaking and doing local work. And local work meant TV commercials.
And that was all production design or art department, or where were you?
At that point, that was all production design, even though in commercials, you're called an art director, but I was a production designer for commercials.
And so how does that process look? You get a job, they bring you in, and they say, here's the vision. Do they come with storyboards, or is it concept art? Or?
TV commercials are a little bit different. There is an hierarchy of, you have a client, let's say Honda, and then they have an advertising agency that came up with these speeches, you know, and this slogan, oh, we're going to do this here. I'm sure you've seen Mad Men. You know, they pitch an idea and it's like, oh, this is how we're going to sell cars. And so this advertising agency looks at the various directors that are available because everybody's freelance, and they go, oh, we love this guy. He's got a good action type stuff. You know, it's going to be great for us. And they hire this director who's usually part of a production company. And then that director chooses his production designer. So he or she, based on either the relationship that you have with them from prior work, or because they look at your body of work and they go, oh, we like his look for what they are wanting. And then you start working with this director. So you get from the agency some storyboard, their little thumbnails, and then the director takes their average story and make it this grand story. And then he creates, obviously, these storyboards, and then we start working together and you create this whole visual presentation and the visual research. And so that's when you go into, and we can talk about the process of how you select things and why you select things. They're a little bit different, obviously, in TV commercials as they are in films. I think conceptually they are the same, but in films they are much deeper, immersive. Much more. They have to be more elaborate because you have a lot more time on screen. A commercial, I hate to say it, it's 30 seconds, but by the time you do this and at the end you have all the mumbo jumbo, and it's all about a product, so it's an introduction of, okay, this is the environment where we are in a kitchen, and then here is, this, and then it's all about this here.
So it's almost an afterthought, the entire design in that commercial space. Whereas in film, it's more of a part of the character, would you say?
Correct. Yeah. So in TV commercials, you very quickly become the background, right? You're the wallpaper in the back. Oh, it's a kitchen, and it's like, you tell the story of who these people are, but it's very quick. There's not a lot of depth into it. In films, it's amplified by, I'm going to say, when I say 1,000 times, it's literally 1,000 times. Because you have to consider the storytelling. In commercials, it's all about the product. In a film, it's a story. So the story comes from a book, per se, that becomes a script, right? Or a story that becomes a script and it's being brought to life. Brought to life by different people. Usually you have these producers that find a great book or find a story and they option, meaning they buy temporarily a right for that, and then they take it and they try to kind of develop that and turn that into a film. So they are very invested in it, time-wise, financially, and otherwise. And also these people are pretty creative. They look at that book and they imagine it as they read it. It is kind of then brought to the director, and then the director kind of sees his own vision of it. We all are visionary, right? We all express it, right? The director sees it, and then so it's kind of that evolution. And then that director, he or she chooses a production designer, same, based on their body of work, their sensibility, their relationship, or something that relates to the visual language that they want to do. But you're still telling a story. And so you look at, and so the process starts, let's say you're being hired, you do a lot of research. The research is paramount because the research is going to create, again, that visual language, the authenticity of it, and we have to be very aware that our viewers are very critical, positively, negatively, and everything
Conscious
in between.
and subconsciously too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick something up if it's like period, not period correct sort of thing.
And
right?
that's the thing.
Yeah.
If you lack authenticity, there's accuracy and, but the authenticity, then you lose the viewer because someone who is a little bit knowledgeable in something go, man, that wouldn't be right. Or that would not be the right person. And suddenly you've lost that person.
And you're no longer in the world, right?
And they no longer trust you. They no longer believe you. They no longer listen to the story that you're telling. And again, we are storytellers. Just like when someone tells you a story, if it's very engaging, it captures you and it transports you into that world of the story that he's saying. Just like when you read that book, it's like, if it's well written, it's like, I cannot put that book down. It is the same thing, but we do it with visuals. So you do your research, and then from there, you start creating, as a production designer, your own, call it visual language of what you see that story to be. And obviously, it's not you totally isolated. There's a great level of collaboration that needs to happen. Your director, he or she had an idea, you EP or producer, he or she had an idea. And so we have to make sure that we're all in line in the same visual direction, that it's kind of cohesive with the story that you're trying to tell. Sometimes you look at it and you go on a tangent, oh, I'm going to be doing this. And they go, that's not what the story is. This is not how we envisioned it. So that's where it's not, oh, this is what Vincent wants. Because then you may have a disconnect from the story, from how it was envisioned by the people that created your director or your producers,
or even the budget, right? Because
yeah,
maybe you have this grand idea,
yeah,
and like whoa.
That's the thing. So that's, to me, that's, it falls into kind of the execution of it. So just first the visual language, where it is very multi-layered. You have to consider, to me, the most important part when I design anything. It's not as much what it looks like, but what it makes you feel like. When a viewer is emotionally into what you're showing him or her, he will be in your story because you've touched into the emotions. And you do that in many different ways. You do that, obviously, with... I like to start with the bigger things and come down to the little details. But the bigger thing is the volume and spatial design. I just did this movie where we're in bunkers. And these people were in a bunker, and I made the ceiling lower, but actually much lower. And then the director, it's a bit too low. I say, let me do 2 sets, kind of what you're talking about, and one like this here. Also, you have to understand and consider what you are using in terms of camera and lenses. If you're shooting anamorphic, that means you're going to chop off the top and bottom, right? Because you see more. And then suddenly, if it's too high, you don't see it. And suddenly, I've lost what I was trying to convey, which is when you have a low ceiling, you feel that you have no room to breathe. You almost like step into a room and you dug down. And you feel that if the world collapses, you have nowhere to go. It creates a fear. So you feel like this. That's the feeling. It doesn't matter if it's black, gray, green. It's what you feel like.
Interesting.
So to me, it's the feeling of the emotions that you create with these big spaces or smaller spaces. The same as you see a shot and you come into a room and it's 20 feet, 30 feet high, and you go, like even you breathe in and you're like, oh my God. And it takes you into a feeling of openness as opposed to a claustrophobic feeling.
Interesting.
In that case, I wanted that claustrophobic feeling. So that's where my first thing is usually the size of things, because it makes you feel, that environment.
Super smart.
And then you go into color palettes, and then you go into contrast. So when you do color palettes, you have certain colors that are more lively and happy. Earth tone colors are very soothing. This is why you have wood here. This is like, oh, it's non-threatening. If you're doing a dystopian world where it's depressive, it's
concrete, bare,
concrete.
cold.
And I call it void of life, right? Where the happiness is gone. There's no bright color. It's all like dirty, muted.
Brutalist kind of,
Yeah, and suddenly it's depressive. So your color palette kind of dictates your mood. Again, what's mood? It's a feeling. I never told you what color I was choosing. I was just telling you this either desaturated, overly saturated for happiness. So this is how you choose it. And then you have contrast. So contrast is as a feeling of oppression. For example, when something is very low contrast, it's very naive and gentle and, kind.
So not a lot of darks, it's just a
Correct.
nice medium blend of all tone.
Correct.
Yeah.
When you start accentuating this darker contrast, where you have this less middle ground, it goes black and white and maybe some, suddenly it's darker, harder, right? And then so this conveys, again, that oppression as opposed to that comfort. So in your research and your visual language, you consider, all of these elements.
Wow.
The other part, and that's where you also have to be a little bit technical about things, is you have to understand what the final look and tension is. Meaning, when we shoot something, then it goes through the process, then they take it in post and do whatever they have to do. And then there is what they call color grading, where they alter, they change the colors, they change the contrast, and all of this here. But if you don't capture and understand what you need in camera, fix it in post is one thing. But if you're thinking that you've designed a set and there's not a lot of contrast, and then it should have been darker and more oppressant, and then if you think, oh, they can tweak that in color grading, you're right, they can, but this is the issue. They're going to change your set and then make your set darker. But guess what? There was a scene with a little girl who was innocent, and suddenly you're grading and changing the thing, including her, and she no longer is nice and soft and innocent. She becomes hard, and you've lost what you're trying to convey, which was, let's say, a little innocent girl into a very dark, oppressive world. Well, you brought her to the same level, so you've actually, unfortunately, lost the intention. So you have to understand where they want to end up. And that's where, obviously, with the directors and all of that, we all discuss that. But then your DP, your director of photography, becomes crucial into working with you and understanding how it's going to arrive at the final thing, right? DPs have lots where it's creating a certain color tone and all of this here. And then by you understanding, okay, this is how we're going to potentially be graded at the end, you give the DP what he needs. So when he lights it, for example, we just did an 1950s Russian prison set, and we wanted to have just pool of lights. So it was not big ambient light. And so I knew that it was going to be just very isolated lights, that my walls and everything on my walls was going to fall off, meaning go into the shadows. The only way that I would preserve the visual presence of my wall was to over-accentuate all the detailing. So I made my texture much stronger. I added, water running on the side and all of this here. So even in the shadow, you could see a little bit of that texture. Otherwise,
gets lost, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
As soon as when it's brightly lit, you see all the detail, but suddenly you put just one light above because that was the intent. Everything else disappears. And so suddenly you kind of did not consider what the DP was going to do, how he was going to approach lighting. So that's, to me, your DP can be your best friend or your worst enemy.
I was going to say, yeah.
And vice versa. I can be his best friend or his worst enemy.
Yeah.
I need to give him or her opportunities of lighting. If we decide that we want to create a certain environment and create depth and layer, and it's all in camera, where is he going to put his light? I need to either give him what we call practicals, meaning real lights that are in camera, or I give him recesses. I love angular things. I love layers, because in layers, he can highlight things, and it just becomes a beautiful layered texture.
Not so flat, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I love that.
9 out of 10 times, a DP will not want to shoot something with the wall right there. He's going to find an angle, so there is layers, so there is kind of, I call it visual interest behind. So you have to make sure that you converse with the DP, that you understand how he's going to light it, and that you give him the means, whether in your architectural design of it or with the features themselves.
And so when you're doing all of this, you're learning, you're building out everything. If somebody was to get into this field, what kind of books or what kind of resources are you pulling? Is it just straight internet where you're just going on and looking at resource? Are you how do I learn all that?
So excuse me, learning the technique, the knowledge. Either go to film school. I did not go to film school. Excuse me. The majority of people did not go to film school. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Do you want to start that again? Because
you can just jump off with
yeah. So if someone wants to get into it, not everybody went to film school. I did not go to film school. The majority of people on the set did not go to film school. Some of the directors potentially went to film school to understand the structure of a movie, the storytelling aspect of it, the act, the arc, how to direct, actors, which is so complex, which I have nothing to do with.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Yeah, and I'm glad I don't. I don't have to deal with personality, my wall and my props, and my colors. Yeah. That's correct. They're not going to have ideas that differ from mine, right? It's and I have to commend directors because they are dealing with people and personalities and and otherwise. So how do they learn? There is, fortunately now, because of the digital age, a lot of BTS, behind the scene type stuff, and it shows how it's done. There's a lot of people that we want to share our craft because we know that nothing prepares you at school. Even if you do go to film school, you will know, you know what a C-stand is, which is the part that holds a flag that master light. Oh, you know what a light is. You know what a camera, digital, but you have no idea. You learn by being on the job. You learn by asking the question. You learn by being a hustler. You learn by doing projects for free. There is so much content being created by so many people, by so many super creative people, even with just an iPhone. But there's always a need for support, meaning, as you know, when you shoot something, you need help, someone to hold the light, someone to help you with the props, someone to set up things. Start at that level. Learn the craft of what is it, what's a camera, why ask the question, hey, why do you have two cameras? Oh, because in the edit you're going to do, oh, why do you have a light here? Well, because you don't do a top light, you do a key light and a fill light, and go, oh, key light, fill light. You learn all of these things, right? The very basic of it. Go talk to the production designer. Go to the prop guy and say, hey, how can I help you? And the guy goes, dude, I need some help. Can you paint this? Can you put some stickers? Can you read? And you start doing all of these things. And then the next job, you're knowledgeable into something. And you go, just like I did, and say, hey, I know what I'm doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I know what I'm doing. Hire me, blah, blah, blah. And then you move up and you move up. And the more you learn, even the very basic of things, the more valuable it makes you to the next person who's going to hire you. He or she is going to see that you have a little bit of knowledge. More importantly, I understand that you started where I started, which I knew nothing, but you have the drive to ask the question. You have to the drive to, okay, do this here, and then you understand why you're doing it, or you ask the relevant question. You're just not doing it. You're asking, I'm doing this because camera is going to be there. Got it. I'm going to pay attention to that person, because that person, the next time when I'm going to tell him or her, hey, take that and put it over there, I know that he's going to think the same way. He's going to put it knowing that the camera is there, or for example, that if there's a prop there, make sure there's no sticker underneath the cup that says, whatever,
Goodwill.
IKEA. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I mean, little details like that, that's a Fincher thing.
Yeah.
Right? This is what,
Yeah.
So where these people will make themselves very attractive to someone like us is that they either already have the knowledge, and we know that. When you're on a big feature, I mean, I did these movies, different countries. We had like 7 art directors in one country, 7 art directors, an assistant art director, and junior draftsman in one country, art directors, assistant art director in a different country. Sure. These are the type of people that are already established, meaning I can delegate to them. I know that they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. But since you ask, how do one start, is that show your drive to learn, mm-hmm. make yourself very valuable at whatever level. I enjoy speaking to, I call them the kids because I can be their dad. And because they start somewhere, you want to be the person that the next job say, oh, I remember that person. She was great. She was attentive. She was asking the right question. I know she doesn't know that, but I know that I can tell her, hey, we're going to be doing this here. So this is how we do it, da-da-da. And that person will succeed because he or she had the drive and was asking the question, mm-hmm. right? I think that when we've acquired a certain level of knowledge, there is a personal reward in sharing that. It's the same as Christmas. You give a gift. It's to see the face of people when they open the gift, right? Mm-hmm. There's more than one person that I've taken from hiring them at the beginning. There's a woman in particular. She was not even in the film industry, but she used to do windows for Nordstrom and all of that. And I brought her on and I told her, okay, this is how we decorate things. I know you have a great eye, a great sense of aesthetics. Mm-hmm. I know that. You don't yet know how to apply it in what we do. So this is how we do it. Da-da-da. This is why we do it. And I would literally take her by the hand. And when I would have meeting with the director on TV commercials or the agency and the creative director, I would drag her and say, okay, listen how I'm going to present what I'm presenting. Mm. Because you need to know that. It's not because you chose a great chair that they're going to be okay with that beautiful, let's say, red chair. Mm-hmm. You need to be able to sell it to them. Mm. You need to be able to convince them that that chair is the right chair and why. And so I was taking her by the hand, and when you pitch or you present something, there's different ways of doing it, right? You want to make sure that you give them convincing arguments, that you convince them essentially. Mm-hmm. You know, your presentation, your enthusiasm, mm-hmm. and the power of your conviction is important. If you come in, I'm not really sure, well, guess what? They're not going to trust you. Mm-hmm. But if you come in and say, this is the perfect chair because it works for what we're trying to do, it tells the right stories, your demographics are going to love it, it's very aspiring, but they go, yeah. You know, that's your enthusiasm. Yeah. That's part of your drive. That's part of your excitement about what you do. Mm-hmm. So whatever you jump into, be motivated. Ask the question. Don't be afraid. We are all going to want to contribute. Mm-hmm. If someone says, I don't have time for you, he or she is an asshole. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, but that's the reality of it.
True. So that kind of segues in the last film you just did with Gerard Butler, when that was the one that you were referencing, that was the bunker one.
Correct.
When you are on set and you're building these sets, are you on the set when the actors are coming in, or is it like you build it with the DP, the director, and then you step off and then you don't really engage? And if so, if you do engage with the actors, do you have like a cool moment where an actor or actress comes on the set and goes, holy cow, I'm here. Yeah. This is like, that's got to feel great, right? So
that's correct, yeah. Unfortunately, as a production designer, you're designing sets and you're designing them to be built and to be dressed and to be lit before the actors get there. So you're kind of leapfrogging ahead of them. Mm-hmm. You're starting much earlier so that by the time the actors get here, everything is built and all of that. So often what happens on the smaller projects, you may be local, but on the larger projects, you may not be there physically on that stage. You may be in a stage next door, so you can Well, but you may be in a different city, or you may be on a location somewhere, or you may be in a different country. So, and it's funny, I was just having that conversation when it's kind of sad. For months, you design these amazing things, you pour your heart and soul into it. I mean, you have this Fincher thing was like, no, I changed this, I changed that, da. It's just like, you have to be a perfectionist. And then on the day that's being shot, you're not even there.
That's such a bummer.
It is. It's a sacrifice that you make, but it's for the good of the next set.
Yeah. I baked you this amazing cake. I don't even get to watch you eat it.
Yeah.
Have a good time. I'm out of here.
That's correct. The same as you give a gift and you're not there to see them open it and their excitement on their faces.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah.
It's a bit sad,
Yeah.
you know. I experienced it on this movie where we were in the UK for, 8 months or so, built these amazing sets. I mean, from scratch, spent millions of dollars.
In what movie was this?
That's Greenland, the last one that came out. Some of them were, massive sets, and then some of them with like ropes and ladders. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but it's pretty incredible. And a lot of these sets, I was already in Iceland. So I'm not going to fly back on a weekend just to see what they're shooting on Monday. So that's just the reality of it. Now, there are some other sets. At times, you're there. I've done some other films with Jerry where we were in the middle of the desert and screwing around together because in the middle of the desert and you have nowhere else to go, so you're just hanging out, right? But yeah, that's the sacrifice that sometimes that you make. And then to your point, the satisfaction of seeing people coming in is even better when they don't know who you are. You're just there and you have people that come and go, whoa. And they don't go, hey, Vincent, good job, because they know you're there. So
hey, PA, go get me a coffee real quick while I check out this.
Yeah. It's very genuine, right?
Yeah.
And that's a level of culmination of these days, weeks, months of spending your weekend on your own time working on it. When you're on location, you breathe and live location. You have no home life. You're staying in a hotel. You work 5 days a week. On the weekend, you hang out with your friends that are usually the visual effects guy, the DP guy, and you talk about the job because that's just the reality of it. We're already in there for that. So your life for months has been put on hold and you live and breathe that. And suddenly you don't see it until either someone comes onto your set and go, oh my God, that's very rewarding. Or until you go to the theater and you look at your stuff, right? Yeah. And sometimes you look at your stuff and scenes that had been cut, sets that you built had been cut. And I've done a bunch of action movie with Rick Wa, and I like Rick because he's a no-nonsense. He's, speak his truth and his authenticity. But I also know with him, it's an action movie. And an action movie compared to a drama where it's lingering on the people and you have time to see the set. An action movie, you're like, you come into the room, and you're out, and you go, I spent 3 months designing this room, and I saw it in passing. Camera was moving. I barely saw this, and we're out. It's like, and we're never coming back in that room, But that's the reality of the type of movies that you do.
Yeah, because I'm a huge Dune fan, and I love all of the stuff, all the crew that Denny brings on, and just watching the BTS of the actors walking into, Arrakis or these, and they're just like, wow, this is so amazing. And it's like building to scale and building everything in I love seeing actors when they come on set and they have that feeling. And that kind of segues into kind of where we are in the future of things, where you're now starting to see this hybrid type AI kind of gray walling. You're seeing a lot of blue screening. You're starting to see people leaning away from, you know, practicals, you still have the people, you know, like Christopher Nolan, Fede Alvarez, Denny, you know, who are constantly keeping it and using minimal. But with all that being said, where is your job in lieu of all this?
Yeah.
I mean, you have it's called gray walling now, right? Where they're now doing VR.
Yeah. So you have different, like you say, hybrid of it, right? Obviously, we started initially with blue screen and green screen, where they are comping, meaning compositing the background somewhere behind. And then you have different iterations. Now you have the LED wall, or what they call the volume wall, and we can touch on that. And then you have the gray wall, which is another type of things where you're creating actually, it's the same as a blue screen, green screen. You're comping a world around it.
And that's typically with AI, with that?
So AI, it's a combination of things. So I'm not saying it has existed for a long time, but going back to what you were saying, what actors are losing is the stepping in and going, whoa, because they're stepping in and looking at a blue screen or a gray screen at that point, right? So they've lost the feeling of immersion, right? And gladfully, you still have some of these directors, the Nolan and the Villeneuve, and, you know, all of these guys that have the power to say, I want real sets. I want, you know, and require my action director, he doesn't like to shoot on stage. He wants to go on location. He wants to, but that way you feel it, right? I'm not saying you cannot really duplicate it, but it doesn't look the same. It doesn't
the scale
feel,
too, right?
It's
You're so limited to that.
Correct. You still could accomplish the same, but it's not the same.
Agreed.
Right? So for the actors, they'll never feel that. Now, so that was the blue screen, green screen. The next evolution was what we call the LED, or sometimes referred as the volume wall, which was used during Mandalorian. Essentially, it's a half, three-quarter of a circle, sometimes with the ceiling part, which is a big TV screen. Instead of being blue, they actually project, or they generate an image that was created before. It allows you to be in a desert or be into this environment, and rather than comping it in post, meaning adding it afterwards, what they do, they have it in camera, meaning the camera films it, captures, because it's on that TV screen behind them. It does help the actors being immersed. Now, you can either have a 2D image that's there for like driving shots, you know, things moving around, and it's very practical. It saves you. You don't have to go downtown LA and cost you a fortune.
And the sun's always in the same spot that you need it to be, right?
So yeah, there's still a lot of flexibility where that image can move. Now, as importantly, if you have time, you build everything in a 3D world in something called Unreal. So Unreal Engine, or UE, is what they use in video games. They create these worlds. So as you're, let's say, a first-person shooter, and you're moving around, the world moves around with you. If you turn left, then suddenly your world in 3D moves with you. So they've implemented that into the LED wall, where you have captors that know where your camera is. So as the camera is moving inside your Unreal world, your 3D world that you've created, it moves around. So you have the correct, what they call parallax. Parallax is when you have, let's say, two columns in front of you, and you move to the side. The stuff that's closer to you moves faster. The stuff further back moves slower. It makes you feel like, oh, I'm in a real place. It makes you feel it's a 3D world. So you have these LED walls where in The Mandalorian, they created that. What it does require as a production designer is that you have to create these worlds ahead of time. But you don't build them. You do the same process of visual research and then talking with the DP and the director and all of that. And now you take all of this and you give it to, instead of a guy with the hammer and nails and paintbrush, he's a CG artist, right? And they build that in Unreal.
So the production designer still in that process using the volume, but it's more the tools that you're there. Oh, got
Correct.
it. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the execution, the creation, instead of doing it with wood and paint, is done
on the digital guy.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he builds that in Unreal, which Unreal is kind of not taking over, but it's a very key component. Because it's one of the best one around where you can change the lighting.
I've seen them move the sun even like, let's move the sun here, and then it's like all the lighting. Yeah, so cool.
So, so technology is becoming more complex, but it's a great thing, believe it or not, because it's inevitable. If you don't keep up with it, you regress because everybody's moving forward. But more importantly, they are amazing tools. You just need to accept that things are changing and that you have to adapt. And it's a new tool in your toolbox. The same as when designing in 3D, my sets, some of the people that work, no, I'm going to stick with pen and paper. I say, okay. And then the director says, so what does it look like when you put the camera over there? Say, I got to redraw it. Well, instead, I moved my mouse and I was showing it. So you realize the power of what a tool can do for you, right? So you have to understand and accept that you have to learn these tools. The same as, for example, the LED walls, I was fortunate enough to be brought on with Sony, because they manufacture equipment. Some of the best cameras out there, very good lenses, and some of the best monitors. And because they want to stay on forefront of the technology, on the Sony lot, they built this first LED walls that was way before COVID. And so I worked with them, and then we developed that with Sony. So that's how I learned it. I was like, this is great. Wow. And then they took that, and now they built a big, massive one, kind of Mandalorian style, with a ceiling. And where it becomes, and the reason why I'm elaborating on this here is because it becomes interactive. When I was saying that the camera moves into this world, then your world moves with you. So you see your world around you, right? As opposed to green screen and blue screen, where just like it's blue and green and you have no idea what they're going to put back there. So that's the LED or the volume wall. Obviously, for that, as a production designer, you have to consider not only what you're creating there, but also all of the foreground, medium ground.
And those are particularly practical, right?
Correct. And that's the only way that you're going to sell the visual, is that you have the transitioning from the foreground or the practical world into the LED wall, which is kind of a right angle. You need to make sure that you get things there so you don't know where the LED wall stops and starts.
Yeah, because in Mandalorian, they did like half the ship, they'll build half the ship, and then the rest of the ship will be the volume.
That's
right?
correct.
Yeah.
You need that. So
so there still are jobs for people that are into the physical building.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because now they're doing hybrid, the actual practical stuff that are now blending in with the digital side.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
I did another car commercial where we created this kind of crazy world and all of this, and you have to understand the mechanics of it, because that's where, if you have things in the foreground, it's great when you're looking this way, but if you're saying, the camera is going to move, let's rotate the world in this half circle screens.
Yeah.
Guess what? Your whole foreground has to move.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
And how do you do that?
Yeah, is it those little...
You have to put it on a massive turntable. So everything, if your background moves, so do your foreground.
Wow.
And so, again, these are things that you have to learn And how do you learn that? By doing it or asking or looking at BTS. There's tons of stuff on YouTube where people are sharing these experiences. So that's the LED wall. Now, you have the newer one, call it the gray box. You know, there's what's his director? Doug Liman just said, I'm shooting my next thing on the gray box, right? And everything is going to be created in post. But how is it created? Is it just purely VFX? Is it a combination of VFX and an AI? Of course, it's AI. Part of it, to what degree, it kind of depends on the need. AI is getting more and more implemented into all of the digital tools that we have, from the very simple one, even Photoshop. Everybody uses Photoshop, you know.
Yeah, you need a little bit more image. You just generate a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They just released something where you give a 2D image of this here, and you click on it, and it creates a 3D of it, meaning AI thinks or they know what the back of it looks like. I was just playing with it yesterday, where for one of the other shows, I had this Mogadishan guy holding an AK-47, right? And I wanted to place it because I was, you know, working on some concept stuff, place it, but he was kind of facing the wrong way. I just threw it into Photoshop. In literally 25 seconds, it rendered, even the back of it, it created, it so that the guy was wearing a white scarf wrap around like this here. It knew that it would be existing in the back, and it created it. Okay, so AI exists in a lot of different things. To what degree is Doug Liman going to use it? Is it because he's going to build it with Unreal Engine or some sort of engine exactly, that creates that because you dictate what it creates that? Or is it a hybrid, or is it something new where you have some new, call it platform, because you've got CDA, I mean, every week. You know, obviously, I subscribe to so many newsletters. The AI world, when I say literally, not once a week, not twice a week, every other day. Oh, the new Kling 2.0, the new Xfield 3.0, the new Seedance, and the next one that just came out is always better than, you know. So you have, and these are just the names that we know of on the top of the list. There's so many other ones. I mean, I can just go on, and there's all this. So don't know yet what platform are they going to use. Also, because they have I'm going to call it a visual effects supervisor type person who's going to be in charge, and they're going to turn to him and say, okay, so we want them to be in a cafe. What's the best way to do a cafe? Well, we already have these assets, they exist, or they go on the location and they LiDAR scanning, meaning with the 3D, and you build the entire thing, and now you have that, and then you use that. There's so many ways, and it's really based on what the need for that shot is. If it's a car and they're driving at speed, then is it just to have motion behind it, or is it something that they're interacting with? Are they traveling through it? So you have so many different software application. Now they call them platforms per se. I mean, even Meta, I mean, everybody's on that jump wagon, you know.
So is there a fear that it's going to wipe out art directors and production designers? Because if you can create that whole world with a click and a couple of prompts, there's a lot of people that lose their job in that, right?
Correct. So this is where AI, and unfortunately, as I was describing AI, I made it sound like this beautiful thing. It is an amazing tool, but that tool, because it's actually automated by a machine, it does replace the persons that were making these things. One can also look at it and say, well, when we do like the blue screen and the green screen and you're going to comp it, so where is my construction people? Sure. They've already been replaced. So it's sad. It's an evolution of the technology that has eroded already some of this position. AI is just exponentially accentuating that valley or gap, accelerating it. Yeah, exactly. Does it still require a production designer? It does to a point. It does where that visual language, so that there's some consistency and continuity. So Doug Lyman, for example, in his gray box were done by AI, for example. He will want to know what it looks like. He will want to know, okay, I want to make sure that, this is the visuals, right? So how does he do that? He goes to a production designer and asks he or she, hey, let's create those visual research. Once we have that visual language and all of this here, let's give that to the, computer guys.
Yeah,
let's just
the prompter.
The computer guys for now. Whether it's a blue screen application, whether it's an LED thing in Unreal, whether it's a, generative platform of some sort. You still need to have them. Like, so what are we doing? So my position will still exist to a certain degree. Not as much, meaning once I'm done with doing all the visual research and these mood boards and all of these things, and I hand it off, then it's kind of in their hand. It's like, yeah, I can check, make sure that, but it's much more reduced as opposed to working on set for weeks. Another show that I did here actually recently, that 1950s, KGB prison. We built it into a few days, and then the entire week was me walking the set twice a day, looking at my scenic painters and changing it. And, it's like I was physically there with markers and say, I want drips here. I literally drew them on the wall because I knew the light was going to be there. That no longer will be required because it's some computer person who's going to be doing this here. Hopefully, they will still hire me and have me on the payroll to make sure that it does stay in line with what we talk about. But is that going to happen? Less likely. So is my position changing? Yes. Is it eroding? Yes. But that's the business is changing. Other crew members, and that's one of the big things that's going on right now, is that, well, if we do everything in the computer, where is grip, lighting, props, and all of that? You still need a little bit of it, but...
a fraction, right?
Exactly. Again, it's being eroded, right? So...
And that's such a bummer because there's so many amazing experiences, not only from your sort of perspective of building it and watching somebody interact with it, or the actor stepping on and influencing their acting. They're now just having to act in these gray walls. And it's like, what can we expect from the future of films? Are they going to start becoming less immersive? Are the acting going to start hitting a weird plateau where people aren't as dynamic because they can't interact within the environment? I mean, what do you think is going to happen if we're doing all gray?
So I think actors have a keen ability to transform themselves into the character, right? So transposing who they are as Billy and becoming James the serial killer, right? Whatever that is. As long as they are being given, okay, you're going to go from here to here to here to here, if they're able to because I worked with some actors, I was having a conversation about something and say, okay, we're ready for you. And they step in front, and I'm like, holy shit.
Light switch kind
I was working with Susan Sarandon. We're talking about, abused women in Vietnam, I think. A very deep conversation, her emotion on her face were like, and then, okay, she steps in her chair literally from where we were to here, and she was like this hard-ass DA, and I'm like,
Wow.
I was just talking to this nice, so they have that keen
Ability to be able
ability
to
do that, right? So is that going to be less immersive? Yeah. Are they still going to be able to do it? If they are good actors, yes. Again, you have good actors and you have great actors, right? So, yeah, that's the reality for actors. For us in the entire art department, AI does replace people, and even before you even build the sets, unfortunately. I had a crew when I built a set where it's an art director or supervising art director, a bunch of art directors, assistant art director, draftsman, junior draftsman, to build this set, right? All of these people are now replaced by
couple prompts.
computer guys, right? And or now, unfortunately, machines that have been prompted to create a bunker that looks like this, and you fed it some imagery for references, and that entire team is being replaced, and that is very sad. Is there anything that I can do about it? Not really, and that's the changing of times. Blame it on the machine? Yeah, no, it's a sad evolution. That evolution also is, call it capitalism, where you capitalize on what's available, right? If you are a producer and you know that I have to build these sets, for example, and these practical sets are going to cost you, let's say, $2 million, right? Because by this time you have all of these people I was describing, just to draw them, not even talking about the building of it, not even talking about the stage, not even talking about the equipment for it, which it goes millions so quickly. Or I can have a bunch of companies and a bunch of prompters working day and nights for a fraction of the cost, right? Look,
it's going to be hard to battle that, right?
Look, and this is what it's called, the film business, not the film. I'm going to make a movie and file for bankruptcy because I was trying to hire people that, that's a sad reality of the film business, which touches, it's been like that, tax incentives, a lot of, I was reading something. The first quarter, I think we lost 40,000 jobs. It's insane. I have so many people that I know, even including my own sons, that are in the business, that are just like, they used to work nonstop, and now it's struggling to find work, and the quality of the work that's available is just,
Now the budgets too. Yeah. When you do find work, like where I'm at right now in my position, if I was here 15 years ago, I'd be making amazing money, and now that I'm at my position and my level, I'm finally inside the gates, and I'm like, wait, where's all the money? The money's all gone. And so it's a really crazy time right now. That all being said, I did want to say thank you so much for coming in. Did you have any projects that you want to plug or anything that you're working on? Or?
Not yet. I have a few that have not been released yet, and then when they come out,
then we can talk about it.
Yeah, we can talk about it. Yeah.
Other than that, well, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate your insight and your stories, and again, thank you, Mick, for the introduction as well. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.